Okay, so welcome to tonight's webinar, everybody. As you can see there, tonight we're talking about supporting your new team members. Now, I record all of these webinars. This is one of a series of 8 that I run, and they're always Wednesday night 8 o'clock, as we are now, and I try and do one every week. So it takes about 8 weeks to go through them all. Sometimes I miss one if I've got an opportunity meeting that I'm going to on a Wednesday night, or if I'm away or anything. So it might be 9 or 10 weeks to do the full lot, but they're all recorded, and I'll show you at the end of the webinar where the recordings are, so you don't have to wait. If you've just started, for example, and you wanted to watch webinar 1 or 2 on getting started in your first few weeks, you don't have to wait 6 weeks till we get there. You can go and watch the recordings of the previous one. So tonight, what we're going to talk about is how to support your new team members. So this should hopefully be useful for those of you who are starting to do team building. Those of you who are a bit more experienced, like Peter and Myrna, hopefully there'll be something useful there as a refresher for you. And those of you who have only just started, maybe you're not really thinking about team building yet, then hopefully it should give you an idea of the sort of support that hopefully you will get from your sponsor and your team leaders. So we're going to talk a bit about understanding the numbers, and if you're not sure what I mean by that, I'll explain that in a moment. And then the importance of the first 7 days, anticipating some early problems, because we all have a few little hiccups and things in our business, helping your new team member keep on track, getting them to their first meeting. And something that I do, and I recommend for anybody who's serious about team building, is have a little checklist of things that you go through with a new team member. You don't really want to be kind of flying, sort of trying to remember everything that you're supposed to be doing. You want to be as professional and as efficient as possible. So having a checklist of what you do with a new team member, I think, is really, really useful. So we talked last week about sponsoring and finding new team members. So when you have a new team member, this is where the business gets really exciting. However, it's also where the hard work begins. Your residual income, your bonuses, will grow much, much quicker if you're getting new team members in. But new team members often have difficulties and challenges that you will have had as well, and you need to help them overcome those. And there's a good phrase I heard on one of the very first meetings I remember going to: your success in Kleeneze will be in direct proportion to the amount of frustration you can deal with. And what I mean by that is that as you get new starters, you will have new starters that come in and decide it's not right for them, so they leave quickly. You'll have people that seem to make a good start, but then something happens. There's a big problem for them, or something they perceive as a huge problem, and they leave. And all you can really do is recognize that you can't possibly expect that everybody who comes in the business will see this business in the same way that you do and will stay for as long as you've done. But you've got to do as much as you possibly can to help them see the big picture. And remember, you only need 5 serious people to build a huge, successful business. Sometimes you go to meetings, when I first went to a Millionaires and Bob Webb was up there talking at the Millionaires College, and there was, 200 people in the room, I kind of assumed that he had personally recruited all 200 of them. But of course, that's not the way it works. You recruit lots of people, and in amongst the ones that you recruit, you will find some serious people who themselves want to become team leaders, and they will recruit people. And in this room, this Millionaires meeting, as I said, there was probably only half a dozen there who'd been personally recruited by Bob. They were all in his downline, or the vast majority of them were in his downline. But other than the half a dozen that he personally recruited, the rest had been recruited by them and the people that they'd recruited and the people that those had recruited, and so on. So don't feel that you need to be able to recruit thousands and thousands of people to build a huge business. As I said there, you only need 5 serious ones to be really successful. So when your new team member starts, the aftercare and support that you can give them is the biggest impact you can have on the success of a new team member. Now, it's really important to understand that many distributors will leave for all sorts of different reasons. And so even if you are the best team member, the most caring and supportive person in the whole world, some people just are not right, or Kleeneze is just not right for everybody. So if you understand that many people will leave, as long as you can think that you did everything you possibly could to support them, then that's absolutely fine. I know when I first started, I was really kind of panicky over, I recruited somebody in, and I just assumed that everybody would see the business in the same way that I did. They all get excited, they'd battle through a few issues, battle through a few problems, they'd get sort of some recognition, and it would really move them on. And when people were leaving, I saw it as a kind of failure on my own part, that I'd obviously done something wrong. I'd upset them, or I hadn't supported them properly, or I hadn't prepared them properly. But actually, I think it's really important to understand that even if you give them every possible support, some people will still leave. So, one of the things that's really, really worth doing and makes a huge difference is keeping in touch. If you expect somebody to join the business and you just email them loads of details of this is how it goes, and let them to get on with it, leave them to get on with it, then the first time they have any kind of hiccup or problem, they're likely to leave. So, as I've said there, constant communication keeps people inspired. You need to be communicating with them, and by that I mean really talking, so face to face, on the phone. Skype is good as well, because there's all sorts of body language and voice intonation and things that you can get across to people in a face-to-face chat or a telephone call that you can't in emails and Facebook chats and text and so on. So keep in touch regularly, and what you will find is when you recruit somebody who is keen and enthusiastic and they start contacting you, then that's fantastic, because those are the first signs that what you've recruited is somebody who is fairly serious, and they may well become a leader themselves. So when people start calling you rather than you having to chase them all the time, that's a really good sign. Okay, quick question for you. In the first 7 days of somebody, how often, when they've just started, how often would you say you should call them up? Anybody want to take any guesses? I know there's a few of you who've been on this before, so you might know. Yep, daily is needed, as often as possible. Yep. Yep, daily. Nikki says every couple of days. Pete went oops because he shouted daily as needed. So my view is try to call them every day. Now in practice that might not be possible, might not be possible for you or for them. But at least if you try to call them, if they're not there, you can leave a message or send them a text so that they know you're there. Now it may be that there isn't something to do every single day. But what you're doing is you're building rapport with them, having a bit of a chat, just saying, how's it going? Did you manage to did the catalogues arrive okay? And you're just showing them that you're there for them and that you care. And if they do have any questions, then by calling them every day, you're able to answer their questions immediately. A lot of new team members think because you're a team leader, you must be really busy supporting all sorts of other team members and doing your own catalogues. So they think, oh well, I better not call my team leader, my sponsor, because he's probably really busy. So you need to give them the opportunity to ask any questions by calling them and showing them that you're always there for them, and that it's really important to you that you answer their questions for them. So as an example of the sorts of things I say when I call them up, and as I say, it will vary, and you probably won't get to speak to people every day in their first 7 days, but normally what I do is the day after they've registered, I would just give them a quick call and just say something like, hi Pete, how are things going? I just want to let you know, I've sent you a little information pack, a little welcome letter that I send to my new starters, so that should arrive tomorrow. I've checked with head office, the catalogues are all sort of printed and ready to be delivered, so they should be with you tomorrow. Have you got any questions at the moment? And quite often they don't, because they haven't received anything by then. If they're really keen and they've started doing some Facebook work, for example, they may have some questions on that. But otherwise, it's usually that first day is normally just, oh great, thanks, okay, then I'll keep a lookout for those tomorrow. And at least you've kind of you've kind of made touch with them, kept in touch with them at that point. Day 2, I normally go through what I call a getting started checklist. So I always send a welcome letter to my new starters, and that welcome letter really just sort of says, introduce them to the business, gives them all my contact details, and I always send this in the post rather than via email, because there's so much stuff you get in the email. I think it's nice to get a letter. It's handwritten, bright yellow envelope, so it kind of stands out and shows my team members that I'm sending them something special, hopefully. And I also go through there's a getting started checklist. So one of the things I talk about is just making sure that I understand what their situation is, what they're looking for out of Kleeneze, what they can commit to it, how many hours they're looking to do, whether they're just wanting to do the catalogs or just wanting to do Facebook or a bit of both, whether they're looking to get into team building straight away. So it's really just setting my expectations of what their aspirations are and what their hopes are. So that's what I tend to do on the second day. And on day 3, it might be the day that their catalogs are due to arrive, so I would just give them a call, check that everything's arrived okay. I also arrange for a stationery pack to be delivered to my new starters, so make sure that their day slips have arrived and so on. So really just making sure that everything's arrived, they've unpacked the boxes, and see if they've got any questions from them. And then I kind of tend to ask, what are your plans now with the catalogs? Are you aiming to get any delivered today, depending on obviously what time the catalogs arrive? Are you hoping to put some out tomorrow? So that at least if they've got any queries or questions on where do I deliver them to, how do I keep track of where I've delivered them to, all those sorts of things, I can answer those questions then. So day number 4 might be the day after they've tried delivering their first catalogs, or tried doing their first presenting, or they've joined their first Facebook groups or whatever. So day 4 might often be just a little, how's it going? Did you manage to get those catalogs delivered okay? How did that go? And then just answering any questions, especially the very first time you go out delivering catalogs, or the very first time you go out collecting them. It's probably something they've never done before. I know when I did it, I got my 250 catalogs and I delivered them all in one go. Took me 2 or 3 goes at coming back to the house. And when I got back, I was absolutely exhausted. I think I went to sleep in the afternoon for about 2 hours. I didn't realise how tiring it was going to be, just going for a little walk around the streets and popping a few catalogs through some letterboxes. So, your own experience of your first day, if you can remember how things went for you, will really help you to help somebody on their first day when they're first delivering their catalogs. Day 5 might simply be, have you had any questions? If they were putting catalogs out yesterday, maybe they're going to be collecting them the following day, or maybe 2 days later, depending on whether you do a 1-day pickup or a 2-day pickup. So day 5 might just be how are things going, anything, any questions I can help you with. Day 6 might be they've done their first collection, and if they put all their catalogs out and they've been doing a bit of Facebook selling as well, they may want a bit of help putting their first order in. So you can guide them through that and help them sort of get an order through, explain a bit about the dropship orders, explain a bit about the £150 for free delivery and the free catalogs as well. So making sure that you help them with all those sorts of things. And then day 7, obviously the order wouldn't arrive straight away, but then you might be asking about, have you been for stragglers, or when the order is due to arrive, if it's a couple of days later, give them a call to make sure that everything was there in the box as they expected it. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of the sorts of things you can say to people during their first 7 days. And to be honest, that what you actually say to them isn't as important as the fact that you ring them up when you say something to them. Because what you're doing is you're just building that rapport, that especially if it's somebody who you haven't met yet, you've maybe done the recruiting over the phone or the startup over the phone, then speaking to them as often as you can during their first week will just build that rapport so they feel comfortable asking you questions, calling you when they've got a question they're not sure about. And that's really, really important at the beginning. Okay, Kleeneze is a very, very simple business. but it's also easy to make little errors and little mistakes. So it's worth just highlighting a few of them at the beginning so that people don't make those errors. Because if you've just started at something and you make a mistake and it sets you back a couple of days, that can be quite a big issue for some people. So little things like making sure you send your photo in your first 28 days so that you get your ID card. If you don't do that, your account goes on hold, so goes on stop, I think, so that you then can't place orders. So make sure that people send their orders in, their photos in. It's worth inoculating people against failure. Now, what I mean by that is there will be things that happen to everybody. So it will rain. We're in this country, even up in glorious sunny Manchester, it occasionally rains. So you need to prepare your distributors so that it will rain, so you need to have a raincoat handy. And sometimes if you're writing out your pickup notes, you might want to put the little booklet in a plastic bag to try and keep it dry and so on. And explain that you will have good pickups and you will have bad pickups, and it's not the pickups that you're doing now are the very early days, and it's preparing to build your customer base, which will give you the reliable, regular, much easier income in the future. So you do have to go through a little bit of a roller coaster at the beginning. You'll have good pickups and bad pickups, and you will come across some grumpy people. There'll be people that said, "No, I threw it away. I'm not interested in this silly catalogue or whatever." And I always like thinking of Jim Rohn talks about this really well. He says there are only half a dozen really grumpy people in the whole world. Now they move around quite a lot, so you might bump into a few of them. But if you bump into one and you think, "Oh well, there's only half a dozen of these, I can deal with that," it kind of just gives yourself a bit of a laugh. And I kind of often think, if someone's really grumpy and upset at you, just because you popped a catalogue through their letterbox, they must have a pretty sad life themselves. So I always say, "Okay, I'm really, really sorry to trouble you. I promise I won't deliver a catalogue again." Cross them off your list, and that's the last you'll ever see of them. Make sure you've given them the contact names and numbers of their upline. So depending on if you sponsored them yourself or if they're in one of your downline teams, they need to know who they can contact if they can't get hold of you, and also the telephone numbers of the help desk and so on. So making sure they know who to contact. And then also the local opportunity meetings are a fantastic way to meet other people in the team, to meet you if you haven't met face to face yet, and just to get a bigger idea of the whole business of Kleeneze. Because when we're all starting on our own, it's quite scary in a way. You're kind of sat on your own in your little office somewhere and delivering catalogues on your own and collecting them on your own, and all you've got for support is maybe somebody on the telephone. So going to a meeting and meeting 30 or 40 other people who have all done the same that you've done is really, really reassuring, and I find they're a great way to help you kind of keep going when you might be struggling a little bit. So explaining how you build your customer base up, and that basically the reason that you talk about this is when you first start off, you could put out 200 catalogues and just get 2, 3, 4 orders. I remember Sue Marshall, my sponsor, saying the very first time she put out all 200 or 250 catalogues, kind of got one order for sort of $4.99 or something. And it's really easy for people to think, "Oh my God, it's going to be like this all the time." And of course it isn't. But when you first start off, you don't know any better. So it's really important to explain that quite often people might not order from you the first time. It might be the second or the third or the fourth time even before they'll order from you. But once they order once and they get to know you, you'll find they order a lot more frequently after that. So you just need to go through that initial phase to build that customer base. So it's really important for you to explain that to your new starters and not just expect them to kind of work it out for themselves. And as I said earlier, just make sure you talk to them regularly, so when their kit arrives, after their first drop, after their first pickup, and helping them to place their first order. So, other little errors. Did they start on the installments? It's really easy that people can start on the installments. They start at £25, and then it's easy just to forget that you've got another payment due in 30 days and 60 days and 90 days. So make sure you know the dates of their installments so that you can pre-warn them. You can just say, "Don't forget you've got your installment due in a couple of days. You need to make sure that £45 of your profit is put into that account, or you've got some money in that account to pay for it. Otherwise, if they don't, their account goes on hold and they can't then place any more orders. And if they miss one, if for some reason the money isn't there, I think they've got 72 hours to call the help desk and pay for it. And also it's really important, if they just think, oh, I'll just go online and make a payment in the same way that they pay for an order, then that payment doesn't go towards the installments. It just simply gives them a credit on their account. So their account still won't get reactivated. They need to call the help desk and make a payment then, and make sure the help desk know it's to pay that installment. As I said there, your account would go on hold, so you then can't place any more orders. And if you leave it for longer than 72 hours, then if you then want to reactivate your account, you have to pay all 3 installments off, or all the outstanding installments, in one go. So, if you happen to be on holiday for a week and you come back for a week and you haven't paid what you due on your installment, that can be an expensive shock. So make sure you know your new team members' dates, and make sure you warn them a couple of days before. Okay, making sure that you keep them on track and that you understand what they're hoping to achieve. So hopefully in one of those early conversations you'll have an idea from them of what they're looking to earn, whether it's just an extra £50 a week or whether they're looking to build a full-time income. You need to know that so that you can help them achieve that, because they won't know what they need to do really. It's worth just making sure that it's realistic. If you've got somebody who comes in and says, oh, I really need to, I've got a £1,000 mortgage a month, so I really need to be able to pay that, but I've only got a couple of hours on a Saturday morning, then it's not really realistic for them to do that at the beginning. Maybe when they've built a big team up and they've got a residual income, then it's very realistic, but at the beginning it's not. So you need to make sure that they're aware, if they're looking to earn £50 or £100 a week, how many catalogues do they need to put out, how many Facebook groups do they need to join, depending on what they're looking to do, and help them keep track of that, so that as you get towards the bonuses at the end of the period, if someone's close to getting their 10% bonus, for example, or their 30-day challenge, they may not know what the dates are. So it's really important that you do know the dates, and that you call them a week before and say, no, you're on target for your 10% bonus, that's worth an extra £40 or £50 to you. And what it means is you need to put in one more order of £150 by Thursday at 9 PM. And that way, they're involved in all of this, and they start to understand and they see the bonus system for themselves. But at the beginning, it's up to you to make sure you explain that to them. So making sure that they set their first goal, so they know about the 30-day challenge and the free catalogues they can get. They know about hitting their 10% bonus and so on. We don't do the 90-day challenge anymore. There used to be a 90-day challenge, but I need to remove that from the slides. So, meetings and trainings. These are really, really useful. As a team leader, you should go to every single meeting and training and webinar. So I'm glad to see you all here, but webinars as you possibly can, because you need to show the importance of them to your new team members. Even if it's a meeting that you've been to before and you think the training is going to cover something that you already know, you never know when you're going to pick up some new bit of training or some little kind of hint or tip that you didn't hear the first time around. And if you don't go there, and if you just say to your team members, oh, well, if you turn up, I'm sure it'll be fine, there'll be somebody there to meet you and they'll look after you, they obviously think from you that meetings are not very important, so they won't bother going themselves. And that's just a disaster for you. So be the leader you seek. What I mean by that is, if you're thinking, oh, it'd be really nice if my upline or my sponsor was to run a little training sizzle for us or something, you can do that. You can organise it. You could invite your sponsor or invite someone cross the line to come and help run some training with you. Be the leader that you want to see, because then your new team members will look up to you and be inspired by the leadership that you show them. Okay, I'm not going to go through all of this. I'm a big believer in lists. Some people are not, so I'm not trying to preach here to people about keeping lists. But I find it really useful. If I've got a new team member starting, there's lots of stuff that you have to go through with them and that you want to make them aware of. So having a list of it, and you can kind of have a quick look through there. I have a little email group, so I kind of can send emails to all of my team at once, add them to your phone, and send them a welcome letter, order a starter kit for them if you do that, and make sure their catalogs arrive, all those sorts of things. Have them in a checklist, and then if you're having a really busy time, especially if you're really getting into the recruiting and you've got 2 or 3 people who all join within 2 or 3 days, you can easily forget, oh, did I send that welcome letter to Graham or was it to Gregory? And suddenly you end up sending 3 letters to one person and the other 2 don't get anything at all. So keeping that checklist is really, really important. Okay, in terms of managing your team now, one of the things that's really important is to track your PSG. So if you're new in the business and you're not quite sure what that means, your personal sales group is basically you and all of the people that you've recruited and that your team have recruited. And once you start getting team members who themselves get to gold and above, then they come out of your PSG. But at the beginning, it's basically your team. And there's an option on the webinar there. Oops, sorry, an option on the website called Group Sales Analysis, and that will help you to see who's placing orders, what the total orders are placed in your team, and so on. And that's really, really important for you to track, what bonuses each team member are heading towards, so you can help them and keep track of that. And also at the same time, you're obviously tracking your own growth. And it's useful to keep a track for every period. Keep a track for yourself of how many active distributors you've got in your team. So that's how many people have actually placed an order, and how many new people you've brought in. How many serious distributors have you got? If you're looking for your 5 serious distributor and you've got 1 or 2 people who are showing signs of wanting to be team leaders themselves, and they're kind of coming to you for help on managing their team and so on, then that's brilliant when you start to see that. And just keeping track of your bulk sales so you can see, is my business heading in the right direction? Jim Rohn, one of my favourite speakers and authors, says measurable improvement in reasonable time. And I think that's a great thing to go for, because as long as you can see that you're building a team, you're getting more distributors, you're getting more sales, and your income will increase as a result of that. So, quick question, just to go over some of the things that I went through earlier, make sure you guys were all awake. How many serious people did I say you should try and have in your team? Can you remember? Ooh, lots of people saying 5. 5. Good. Glad to see you're all wide awake, everybody. Well done. Yeah, I mean, we talk about 5 serious people. Obviously, you can have as many numbers as you want, but 5 serious people is a good thing to aim for. You can always go beyond that. Okay, you have a new starter. How often should you call them in their first week? Yep, Liz says daily. Every day, Myrna, 7 times, ideally daily. Punit, I didn't see you were there, mate. Hi, Punit. Yep, daily. Good. Yep, glad to see you guys are all awake. Yeah, I would say every day in their first week. Now, don't panic if you sort of try to call them one day and then they don't answer, because obviously people have lives, other things going on, and maybe they've missed a call and that. So don't think, oh my God, I'm supposed to call them every day and I've missed a day. If you aim for every day and you end up speaking to them 4 or 5 times in the first week, then that's absolutely fantastic. So, coming to the end now, guys, just about to wrap up. What we've covered tonight is just understanding the numbers. Just bear in mind that not everybody who joins your team will stay forever. And don't beat yourself up if somebody leaves. As long as you can think, I've supported them the best that I could have done, then that's as much as you can do. And bearing in mind that the first 7 days being very important, and we went over early problems that they could have, missing an instalment payment or forgetting to, not maybe just missing £150 and missing out on free catalogues, little things like that they may not realise that they're doing. So it's your responsibility to cover that with them. Keep on track so that if they're aiming for a bonus, they're aiming to get their 10%. The last thing you want is not to let them know that they need £163, on the last day, and they put in an order for £158 and they miss out on their bonus. So just make sure that you're aware of their bonus figures and so on, and helping them get to their first meeting. And just have a little checklist for yourself if that's the way you like to work. Okay, so that's the end of tonight's webinar. I'm just going to turn off the recording for the moment.